Before you click away, listen carefully, because this is not a normal love story. This is about the kind of feeling that grows in silence, hides behind eye contact, and becomes stronger when nobody says a word. Someone is deeply in love with you, but the reason is not as sweet as you think. It is stranger than that, darker than that, more intense than that. This is not only about attraction. It is not only about chemistry. It is about what your presence unlocked inside them, without your permission, and without their understanding. You did not just enter their life. You entered their hidden world. You touched something they had buried for years, and now they cannot act normal around you because a part of them is no longer asleep. Stay with me, because what this really means will change the way you look at their behavior, their silence, and those strange mixed signals you have been trying to explain. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And the most unsettling part is this: they may not even understand how deeply they feel it themselves. Someone is deeply in love with you, and the reason will disturb you more than it flatters you, because it has very little to do with the version of yourself you show the world. It has everything to do with what you unintentionally awakened inside them. You may believe love is built on attraction, timing, shared values, and emotional comfort, but comfort can be misleading. The mind likes easy answers because easy answers protect us from deeper truths. And the deeper truth is this: the most obsessive, irrational, unforgettable kind of love is not born in logic. It rises from the unconscious. It comes from hidden memory, buried longing, and the parts of a person they do not fully understand. And you, without planning to, stepped into a secret room inside their psyche. You did not just make them feel good. You made them feel exposed. You made them feel recognized. You made them feel seen in a way that reached beyond personality and touched something raw. And when someone feels seen that deeply, they do not simply admire you. They become attached to you with an intensity that can scare them. This is the part most people miss, so keep watching, because what follows explains why they move close, pull away, then return again like they are trapped in something they cannot control. Most people think being loved means being liked, wanted, chosen. But this is different. What is happening here is much stronger and far more unsettling. You triggered a recognition, not of something simple, but of something buried, something they had pushed down for years, a need, a wound, a longing, a forgotten part of themselves. And somehow, just by being who you are, you became the mirror for it. Not because you tried to impress them, not because you played a role, but because you carried something they did not expect and could not easily define. And that shook their internal structure. Their mind was built to protect them, to hide certain needs, to silence certain desires, to deny certain emotional truths. Then you appeared, and suddenly those walls stopped working. This is why what they feel is not clean, simple, or easy to explain. It is a mix of desire, fear, projection, memory, and something dangerously close to obsession. You did not just attract them, you interrupted them. You disturbed the story they had been telling themselves, and in the language of the unconscious, disruption often feels like destiny. That is why their reactions feel heavier than the situation should allow. That is why even small moments with you seem to stay with them long after they are over. But here is what you may not realize yet. You did not hook them by doing something obvious. You did not say one perfect line. You did not follow a formula. You broke an expectation, and that is what pulled them in. The human mind depends on patterns. It relaxes around what it can predict. But when someone appears who feels meaningful and unpredictable at the same time, the mind cannot easily let go. You became unpredictable in a way that felt symbolic, not random. Your energy, your timing, your distance, your presence, something about it did not fit the script they were used to. And when the mind meets something it cannot fully place, it begins to project meaning onto it. That is when the shift happened. They stopped seeing you as only a person and started seeing you as an answer to a question they never knew how to ask, an answer to a loss they never named, an answer to a deep emotional emptiness they had learned to live with. And once that happens, they do not just fall in love with you, they fall into you. And this is why detaching from you feels so hard for them. Letting go of you would mean facing the part of themselves you awakened, and that is exactly what their mind has spent years trying to avoid. That is why the connection feels so charged. You did not only awaken something beautiful, you also awakened something unstable. Repressed emotion does not come out softly. It comes out in waves. It twists perception. It blurs limits. It creates emotional intensity that feels like truth, even when it is mixed with fear and fantasy. You can probably sense it already, the strange weight in the way they look at you, the hidden tension in their silence, the feeling that something important is happening even when nothing clear is being said. And what makes it harder is that they may not understand it either. This is not happening in the part of the mind that uses clean logic. It is happening underneath it, in that deeper space where love and fear can exist together, where longing and resistance can grow side by side. That is why their behavior feels unstable. One moment they feel pulled toward you with unusual force. The next moment they disappear, grow cold, or step back. Not because the feeling left, but because their defense system woke up. Something inside them says this is too much, this is too exposing, this is touching something I am not ready to feel. And now they are stuck in a loop: desire, fear, closeness, distance, warmth, confusion. If this sounds familiar, keep listening, because this loop is the key to everything. Part of you may feel this too, that this connection is different, heavier, more electric, almost like it is pulling something out of you as well. And that is where the deeper question begins. What exactly did you do to trigger something this strong? Because it was not random. There was a moment, maybe small, maybe invisible, when something inside them recognized you. Once that recognition happened, there was no clean way back. But understand this clearly. What they recognized was not your surface identity. It was what you represent in their inner world. And what you represent is something they have been searching for, avoiding, and needing all at once. Until you understand that, their intensity will keep confusing you. Because the truth is, you did not just make them fall in love. You activated something they have been suppressing for years. Once something like that wakes up, it does not quietly go back to sleep. It waits, it grows, it asks for attention. It starts shaping thought, emotion, and behavior. It begins to demand a response. And sooner or later, they have to face a choice: confront what this feeling is really about, or spend all their energy trying to escape it. That is why this is not just a romance. For them, this has become an inner battle. They probably told themselves it was nothing at first. Just interest, just curiosity, just a short fascination that would fade with time. But time did not erase it. Time fed it. Because what they feel is not shallow attraction. It is rooted in something older than this moment. Something buried in memory, in emotional history, in the silent part of the self that never really forgets. The unconscious stores everything. It stores old disappointments, unmet needs, lost hopes, unfinished emotional stories. Then one person appears, and suddenly all of it lights up at once. That person became you. You did not enter their life as just another face. You entered it as a trigger, a key, a symbol, something that unlocked feelings they had spent years trying not to touch. And once the unconscious gets involved, it does not politely wait in the corner. It starts taking over in quiet ways. That is why real obsession is not always loud. Sometimes it hides inside silence, inside self-control, inside overthinking. The stronger the feeling becomes, the harder the mind tries to suppress it, and suppression only makes it grow in the dark. So they replay your words, they revisit small moments, they study your tone, your energy, your absence, not because they want to be dramatic, but because they cannot switch it off. The intensity you feel from them is not only about you, it is about what you stand for in their unconscious. People do not always fall in love with a real person first. Often, they fall in love with a symbol, and you became a symbol of something they lost, something they never received, or something they were once told they did not deserve. Maybe safety, maybe tenderness, maybe emotional truth, maybe a chance to finally be chosen without pretending. That is why this feels unbearable for them. Loving you creates a contradiction inside them. One part wants to move closer, to trust, to surrender to the connection. Another part wants to run, because real feeling threatens every defense they built. And that conflict never stays hidden. It leaks out as hesitation, mixed signals, strange timing, sudden warmth followed by silence. But they are not truly confused about you. They are overwhelmed by what you awaken in them. You activated a part of them that runs on memory, desire, emotional pain, and old longing. A part that still remembers what the conscious mind tried to forget. And now that part is asking dangerous questions. Why does this feel so familiar? Why does it scare me? Why do I want it so badly? Why do I want to run from it at the same time? That split is exhausting, and the longer it continues, the more intense the attachment becomes. So they try to create distance. They tell themselves space will calm it, time will weaken it, a little silence will restore control. But distance does not erase unconscious attachment. It often makes it stronger, because absence removes the real person and replaces them with imagination, and imagination is where obsession grows best. Without your daily presence, their mind starts filling in the gaps. It turns your silence into meaning, your image into mystery, your memory into a private emotional world that gets stronger the more alone they are with it. Now you are no longer just part of their reality. You have become part of their inner story, an idea, a possibility, a projection of everything they cannot fully understand. And projections are powerful because they do not have clear limits. They expand, they intensify, they become more necessary with time. This is why they cannot easily break free. They are not only attached to who you are, they are attached to what you have become inside their mind. And what you have become is not easy to replace. It feels rare, almost sacred, almost dangerous. And here is the part that matters most. They do not trust it. They do not trust how strong it feels. They do not trust how fast it grew. They do not trust the way it shakes them, because any feeling this powerful seems like it must carry a cost. And deep down, they sense that it does. So resistance appears, doubt appears, fear appears. Not always to destroy the feeling, but to protect them from what the feeling might demand. Because if they fully accept what they feel for you, they would have to face everything they have tried to keep buried. Suppressed desire, old emotional wounds, hidden shame, unfinished grief, the truth about what they really want, the truth about what they are still starving for. And the mind does not welcome that easily. So they stay in between, wanting you but resisting you, thinking of you but avoiding you, feeling everything but showing almost nothing. This creates a pressure that keeps building, quietly, slowly. Then one day something has to give. And when inner pressure finally breaks, it does not always look romantic. Sometimes it looks like confession. Sometimes it looks like withdrawal. Sometimes it looks irrational. Sometimes it looks self-destructive. Because when the unconscious begins to take the lead, logic loses authority. Emotion becomes the strongest force in the room. That is the moment everything changes. The moment they can no longer pretend this is just a passing mood. The moment they are forced to admit that what they feel is real, deep, and no longer under control. And if you have been sensing that a turning point is coming, you are probably right. Because this kind of emotional tension does not stay suspended forever. Sooner or later, it demands resolution. At some point the mind stops negotiating, because suppression has a limit. You can even feel it in the silence between interactions, that heavy stillness that does not go away. It just waits, because inside them, this is no longer simple attraction, it is confrontation. A confrontation with old wounds, old rejections, and old beliefs that told them they were too much, not enough, hard to love, or unsafe to trust. Then you appeared and contradicted that old story. You made another version of reality feel possible. But the mind does not accept contradiction gently. It resists, it twists, it fights back. Because accepting you would mean rewriting how they see themselves, and that is an intense internal process. So instead of integrating the feeling, they split around it. One part moves toward you, drawn by the connection, the intensity, the relief of feeling seen. Another part pulls away with the same force, warning them that this is unsafe, too exposing, too overwhelming. And the darker truth is this: the closer they feel to you, the more exposed they feel to themselves. You are no longer just someone they desire. You are something that challenges the emotional structure they built to survive. And those structures do not fall quietly. They defend themselves, sometimes with silence, sometimes with distance, sometimes with actions that make no sense on the surface but mean everything underneath. That is why they start creating stories to make it manageable. Maybe it is not real. Maybe it is temporary. Maybe it is all in my head. But these explanations are not really about understanding the feeling. They are about containing it. Because if they truly understood it, they would have to admit that this goes much deeper than they expected. Yet even while they rationalize, their subconscious keeps pulling them back toward you. Quietly, constantly. It does not weaken. It grows. And over time, that unspoken emotion starts changing form. It turns into restlessness, anxiety, longing, and the strange sense that something is missing, even when life looks normal on the outside. Without trying, you become linked to that missing feeling in their mind. Then the cycle begins to crack. Small signs appear first: hesitation, almost messages, almost confessions, almost honest moments, then sudden retreat, because now they are not only afraid of losing you, they are afraid of how much of themselves is already inside this feeling. The closer they get, the more panic rises. The more they pull away, the stronger the attachment becomes. From the outside, they may still seem composed and normal, but inwardly there is conflict. They want you, but wanting you feels risky. They feel connected to you, but connection asks for vulnerability, and vulnerability is exactly what their defenses were built to avoid. This is not only emotional tension now, it is identity tension. If they move toward you, they must become more open, more truthful, more exposed than they are used to being. That version of themselves feels unfamiliar. But if they move away, the feeling does not disappear. It follows them into quiet moments. It becomes regret. It becomes longing. It becomes the question that slowly takes over everything. What if this was real? And what if I lose it? That question becomes the breaking point, because now there is no safe choice. Every path carries loss. Move closer and risk emotional exposure. Move away and risk living with absence, memory, and the haunting sense that something irreplaceable was left behind. That is why you have become more than a person in their emotional life. You have become a turning point, a disruption in an old identity, a doorway into something they can no longer deny exists. And once that doorway opens, it never fully closes, because once a person feels something at this depth, they cannot return to who they were before. They either move forward and change, or they walk away and still change. That is the hidden truth behind this kind of love. It is not gentle, it is not neat, it does not ask permission. It transforms the person who feels it, whether they are ready or not. And if you are still here, then you already know this is not ordinary. This is the kind of connection that leaves no one untouched. Now here is the part that matters for you. Do not confuse intensity with clarity. Someone can feel something powerful for you and still be unable to hold it in a healthy way. They can be deeply drawn to you and still send mixed signals. They can think about you constantly and still hide. They can love what you awaken in them and still fear what it asks them to become. This is why you must see clearly. Their feelings may be real, but real feelings are not always mature feelings. A strong emotional pull does not automatically mean they are ready for honesty, stability, or direct action. And that is where many people get trapped. They feel the intensity and assume it must lead somewhere clean, but intensity can also lead to confusion if the person has not faced themselves. So watch what happens, not just what you sense. Watch whether they choose courage or avoidance. Watch whether they become more truthful or more distant. Watch whether the pressure inside them turns into growth or turns into escape, because eventually this kind of feeling demands a response. Either they rise to meet it, or they shrink from it. Either they step into truth, or they hide behind fear. And that choice tells you more than the chemistry ever could. The feeling may be deep, but depth alone is not enough. Depth without awareness becomes chaos. Depth with honesty becomes transformation. And this is why your role in their story is so powerful. You may never have planned any of this. You may have simply been yourself, but sometimes that is exactly what shakes another person the most. You represented a possibility they had almost given up on. You reflected a need they had buried. You contradicted a lie they had been living with for years. And once that happens, their old emotional world starts cracking open. That crack can become healing, or it can become collapse. It depends on whether they are brave enough to face what your presence revealed. Because the truth is not only that someone is deeply in love with you, the deeper truth is that your presence became a mirror they cannot ignore. You showed them the gap between who they are and who they could be if they stopped hiding. You brought them face to face with desire, fear, memory, and the cost of staying emotionally asleep. That is why they cannot easily forget you. Not because you were perfect, not because you did everything right, but because something in them woke up around you. And once the soul feels awake, going back to numbness becomes almost impossible. So if they seem torn, restless, intense, distant, and pulled in opposite directions, now you know why. You did not just enter their heart. You touched the hidden structure beneath it. And once that happens, nothing stays small for long.